So today is the disappearance day of Kalya Krishnadas. So we'll just speak briefly about him. And we'll sing the prayers of departed Vaishnavas first. Before we start, there's a statute in the state of North Carolina that says that it's illegal to block an emergency exit with any type of material when the building is occupied. So people have a habit of closing the curtain on the door, emergency door over there. And when the building is occupied, that has to remain open. Not to mention that it also somewhat blocks the exit light. You might think it's easy just to open a curtain, but this curtain sometimes gets hung up on the middle, and then there's the door closure. And then if you add a panic or an emergency on top of all that, then it's even more difficult. So we have to think about old people who are trying to get out of the building, and kids. And these doors here are not like that front door right there. That's where most of the energy is lost out of that front door. These doors are newer doors, and they're a lot more efficient. The glass in them are a lot more efficient. So there's not a question of heat loss. Like, that's where the major heat loss comes, is that door right over there. Of course, it's being used in and out all the time. So it's important that we don't want Maharaj to get tagged with a felony and have to pay a fine. And then there's civil penalties, too, that can come with it. So, all right. Okay, so we're going to start with the prayers of the departed Vaishnavas. Ye anilo premadana koruna prachur. Yeah, thank you. Koruna prachur. Ye anilo premadana koruna prachur. Premadana koruna prachur. He no Prabhu kota gela Acharya Thakur. Kota gela Kahamura Swarupa Kahasanatan Urasata Hada Kahadasaragunata Patita Pavan Saragunata Pavan Kahamura Bhatta Yuga Kahakavira Bhatta Yuga Kahakavira Eka kali kota gela goranata ra kota gela kota ra pasane kutibo mata Anale pasibo Kutipo mata Anale pasibo Goranga gunire nidhi kotakile pabo Prabhu Se Samba Sangira Sangye Ye Koilo Bila Ye Koilo Bila Se Sangana Paya Kande Narotamada Paya Narotamada Yanilo Premadana Koruna Prachur Premadana Koruna Prachur Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Chayat Thakur Gela Chayat Thakur Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavatarya Shishi Maha's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gauda Vaishnavin Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sakoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki ISKCON founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jamuna Mayi Ki Ganga Mayi Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakta Devi Ki Shri Radha Golokananda Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gora Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So he who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where is my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where is my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful pastimes? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So that was prayer by Narottam Das. So very short here, we just have, there's not a whole lot. Krishnadas Kaviraj, I think there's one major point they want to bring out. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lead 11, text 37, Adi, said that Kaliya Krishnadas Thakur was one of the principal devotees of Nityananda Prabhu. He knew nothing other than the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. According to Srila Kavi Kanapur's Gora Ganadesh Deepika, text 132, he was one of the 12 Gopals in Vrindavan. And in the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, he was known as Labhanga, one of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends. Here, he is referred to as Kaliya Krishnadas. Now, on the 12th day of the dark moon, on the month of Chaitra, Srila Kalidas Krishnadas Thakur disappeared from this world. This is not the same Kaliya Krishnadas who accompanied Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to South India. So that's one of the major points that I guess the author wants to make you understand. So Kaliya Krishnadas's descendants live in a in different holy places in Bengali. His birthplace is Bardhaman, Burdwan, district of West Bengal, within a short distance from the railway station of Katwa, at the village called Akaihata. This village is situated on the Old King's Road between Navadweep and Katwa. Akaihata is a very small village. These Nityanandas, these are Sakas. They're very close to the. Krishna has his cowherd boys that are very close to him that he shares his very intimate pastimes with. They go with him when he goes to meet with Radha. That's all right, Maharaj. Don't stop. They go meet with Radha. When Krishna goes and meets during noon, they accompany him. There's his Subal, Sudama. Okay, so we're going to, but he's Nityanandas, one of his close associates, immediate associates. So we're going to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're on the Madhya-lila, chapter 11, and text 113. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so we've been reading where all these devotees are coming from Bengali. It's the Rath Yatra time, and they're coming to see. And King Prataparuja was being, from a distance, they were explaining who all these Bengalis were. And the first thing Lord Chaitanya does is make arrangements for prasadam when they show up. And so we're going to read this. And so Sarvabhauma was like, because he's a very strict Brahmin, and he said, well, when you go to a holy place, there's some kind of rules and stuff, like you should shave up, you should take a bath, there's other principles that one should follow when they go to a holy place. But he's explaining to him, well, there's actually, there's levels, and even though that's true, the order of the Supreme Lord is higher than any of those principles. And their desire to serve and follow the instructions of the Lord are higher than any other principle. And this is nowhere illustrated more than with the gopis and Krishna, that they were willing to abandon everything in order to make Krishna happy and serve Krishna. So we see that example is the highest. Okay, so 113. The scriptural injunctions for shaving and fasting are indirect orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, when there is a direct order from the Lord to take prasadam, naturally the devotees take prasadam as their first duty. Right? So we're the kitchen religion. You can see where that comes from. 115. Well, that was 114. When Mahaprasadam is not available, there must be fasting. But when the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly orders one to take prasadam, neglecting such an opportunity is offensive. No Maganda Timarandasha. Ganajana Shalakaya Chakshurami Tamina Tajmai Sri Gurave Namaha. We know Lord Chaitanya tested Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya one time, that he came very early to his house, and he brought with him some Mahaprasadam. And when he woke up, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he gave him the prasadam. So then now he was perplexed. What do I do? Because he knows, again, here's Sarvabhauma, he knows You should rise, you should take a bath, you should wash your mouth. There's so many things that one should do. But then here's Lord Chaitanya giving them some Mahaprasad, which ones, when they get it, they should eat it immediately. So often there are these apparent contradictions, and they're somewhat apparent, but there's different higher level. And ultimately, the purport primary here is just whatever it is that supremes the personality of Godhead the most. And as it just read, that a direct order from the Lord is the highest principle. So we're going to keep reading. So previous, the Lord gave me Mahaprasadam rice one morning. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. And I ate it just sitting on my bed without having even washed my mouth. The man to whom the Lord shows his mercy by inspiring him within his heart takes shelter only of Lord Krishna and abandons all Vedic and social customs. Purport. This is also the teaching of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 66. Sarva dharma prachamam mamekam sarvanam braja aham tvam sarva pabhyebhyo mokshayishyamam mam sucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Such firm faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead is possible only by the mercy of the Lord. The Lord is sitting within everyone's heart, and when he personally inspires his devotee, the devotee does not stick to the Vedic principles or social customs, but rather devotes himself to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is confirmed in the following verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 29, text 46. I guess that's what we're going to read next. Text 118. When one is inspired by the Lord, who is sitting in everyone's heart, he does not care for social customs or Vedic regulative principles. And then also, this is the spontaneous platform of devotion. See, we're working on the regulated platform. You've already understood, and we've been practicing surrendering for who knows how many lifetimes, or even this one lifetime, for years and decades, to try to get to this situation. And we also, part of it is practicing the Raganuga platform. We were also practicing that also, even though we're situated on the Vaidhi platform, because devotional service is personal, and we see that people engage in different people down there cooking for the Lord. Not everybody cooks exactly the same thing or the same way, so there's some personal things that go into each individual's cooking, so it's a little spontaneous. You know, the gardens that are made for the deities, that's a principle, and you make certain, offerings, but how those garlands are made and by what bhakti or devotion ones, and even dressing the deities, they're always dressed differently. So there's some spontaneity in our practice, but it's governed by our regulated practice at this stage. So we're going to read the purport here to that. That's the verse from 4th canto. This instruction was given by Narada Goswami to King Prasenabhari in connection with the story of Puranjana. Here Narada implies that without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot extricate himself from the fruitive activities that are under the jurisdiction of the Vedas. In previous verses, Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 29, chapter 29, text 42 through 44, Narada admits that even personalities like Brahma, Lord Shiva, Manu, the Prajapatis, headed by Dask, the 4 Kumaras, Marici, Atri, Agira, Pulastra, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, Vasista, and even Narada himself could not properly receive the causeless mercy of the Lord. Text 119. After this, King Prataparuja came down from the top of his palace to the ground and called for Kashi Mishra, and the inspector of the temple. Maharaj Prataparudra then told Kashi Mishra and the temple inspector, provide all the devotees and associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with comfortable residences, convenient eating facilities for prasadam, and convenient visiting arrangements at the temple so that they will not be in any difficulty. The orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must be carefully carried out. Although the Lord may not give direct orders, you are still to carry out his desires simply by understanding his indications. This is only possible after a period of practicing. We know, of course, we're reading the story now about, just finishing up about Uddhava's visit to Vrindavan. But it's described that Uddhava was so in tune with Krishna as his dear friend that Krishna didn't have to say anything. I mean, there was conversation, but there were often, Uddhava, just by looking at Krishna and seeing an expression, would know how to serve, what to do, and act in a particular way based on the circumstance at any given moment. In the Brihad Bhagavata Amrita, there's a couple of examples. One where, of course, this is Lord in the first part, where Narada Muni is trying to find out who is the greatest recipient of Lord Krishna's mercy. It's the quest he was on. He finally made his way to Dwarka, where one after another he was directed to one devotee to another, from Prahlad and even to Brahma, Lord Shiva, the Pandavas, the Yadavas, and there's so many. Each one would direct. So finally, the Yadavas said, no, Uddhava. And so when he came to Dwarka to meet with Uddhava, there's this whole past. I want to get into the whole thing, but Krishna was lying down in the other room. He didn't get up that day. And so his close associates had assembled, Uddhava, his parents, his queens, what's going on with Krishna? What's wrong with, why isn't he up? They all came together. And at the same time, Narada Muni shows up at this same particular time. But he's there to see Uddhava. He's not also aware of the situation with Krishna. And so when he sees Uddhava, he says the same thing he says to everybody else he's met along the road. Surely you're the greatest recipient of Lord Krishna's mercy. And we talk about how hard it is to get here. We just mentioned in this previous verse, that to achieve that mercy is very difficult. So, but similarly, Uddhava, like everybody else, rejects Narada Muni's position and what he's saying. And then this whole discourse begins with, he starts to explain to Narada Muni who is really the true recipient of Lord's mercy, and that's the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan. So then they start talking, explaining why, and it basically starts. Then Krishna comes out after the discussion. There's some little discussions between the wives, Rukmini and Rohini, and Krishna's grandmother, Padmavati. Of course, she takes a completely different viewpoint. What happens is they're trying to encourage at this point to get Krishna to go back to Vrindavan. Balaram's there also. And they're talking, and all of them, Balaram's been there. He went back to see. Uddhava went back to see the devotees. Rohini, she didn't leave when Krishna left, so she also saw the mood of separation and the despair that all the devotees had fallen in when Krishna left. So they all had firsthand experience. So they were all trying to encourage Krishna to go back. I guess I'm getting into it too much. But Padmavati, she was taking the opposite position. Padmavati was saying, no, there's no reason for Krishna to go back. What are those good for nothing? Some of the comments she made got to do with him. They never even gave him shoes. They only fed him a little bit of butter. There's no reason for him to go back there. He should stay here. And she said, well, and if he's done some work, did some service there, we'll reimburse them or something. We'll have my husband, multiply it. So anyway, she took a negative position, but they were imploring Krishna, and they were in their conversation with him. They were talking about how the Vrajavasis had fallen into a state of deep depression and missing Krishna. So this got Krishna emotional. I mean, he became very emotional when he's hearing this. And also they were saying, they were talking about, he doesn't even think about him. They kind of like maybe a little bit, you're here, do you ever think about him? But then the queen starts speaking up. Satyabhama was like, he daydreams about him all day. That's all he thinks about. Rukmini says that, at night I can hear him when he's sleeping. He talks about these residents in Vrindavan. So Krishna says, well, in this emotional state, it's impossible for me to go back now, because if I just went there and left immediately, then they would be even cause even more pain for them. So anyway, everybody's crying. It's a whole emotional scene. This Brahma, hears and sees these omens and knows something's going on, and he comes down. So anyway, I'm going to fast forward. There's this new Vrindavan that Vishwakarma created. There was all statues, all just perfectly replica. And Krishna's now in this complete deep mood of separation from the residents of Vrindavan. So he takes them there, he comes back, and the point of, and even Padmavati changes her tune after she sees Krishna dressed as a cowherd boy, because Balaram changes his dress. So the point I'm getting back to is when he gets back, Balaram calms Krishna down, Narada Muni is there, and so he said, he's introduced, Narada Muni's here. Narada Muni's watched the entire situation that's unfolded. And so Uddhava's, now that Krishna's calmed down, Uddhava's introducing Narada Muni. And so they have prasadam. They sit there and they have a meal. And so Krishna tells, I don't have the verse memorized, but he tells Narada Muni, that for someone who reminds somebody about one who's very dear to them, when you have somebody that's very dear to you in your heart, most dear to your heart, and then somebody that reminds you of that, there's no greater friend that one can have. So he's praising Narada Muni in this way. So he starts talking, but Uddhava sees that Krishna, okay, now if he starts talking about the Brajavashas again, he's just going to go back into despair. So the point we're talking about here is that understanding the mind, and from his indications, we'll read that verse again and keep going, but Uddhava was so in tune with Krishna that he was able to manage the relationship through his service to Krishna, make the situation more palatable. So it's that the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must be carefully carried out. The Lord may not give direct orders. You are still to carry out his desires simply by understanding his indications. So Uddhava was a good example of that. Saying this, the king gave them permission to leave. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also went to see the assembly of all the Vaishnavas. From a distant place, Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya watched the meeting of all the Vaishnavas with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Beginning from the right side of the Lion Gate, or the main gate of the temple, all the Vaishnavas began to proceed towards the house of Kashi Mishra. In the meantime, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by his personal associates, met all the Vaishnavas on the road with great jubilation. First, Advaita Acharya offered prayers to the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord immediately embraced him in ecstatic love. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Acharya displayed agitation due to ecstatic love. Seeing the time and circumstance, however, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained patient. After this, all the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur offered prayers to the lotus feet of the Lord. And the Lord embraced each and every one of them in great love and ecstasy. The Lord addressed all the devotees one after another and took all of them with him into the house. Since the residents of Kashi Misha were insufficient, all the assembled devotees were very much overcrowded. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made all the devotees sit at his side, and with his own hand he offered them garlands and sandalwood pulp. After this, Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met with all the Vaishnavas at the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a befitting manner. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu addressed Advaita Acharya Prabhu, saying sweetly, "My dear sir, today I have become perfect because of your arrival." Advaita Acharya Prabhu replied, "This is a natural characteristic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he is personally complete and full in all opulences, he takes transcendental pleasure in the association of his devotees, with whom he has a variety of eternal pastimes." As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Vasudev Dutt, the older brother of Mukunda Dutt, he immediately became very happy and, placing his hand on his body, began to speak. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Although Mukunda is my friend from childhood, I nonetheless take greater pleasure in seeing you than in seeing him." Purport. Vasudev Dutt was the older brother of Mukunda Dutt, who was the childhood friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is naturally a great pleasure to see a friend, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Vasudev Dutt that although it was a pleasure to see his friend, his pleasure was increased by seeing his older brother. Text 139. Vasudeva replied, "Mukunda got your association in the beginning. As such, he has taken shelter of your lotus feet. That is his transcendental birth." Thus Vasudeva Dutt admitted his inferiority to Mukunda, his younger brother. "Although Mukunda is my junior," he said, "he first received your favor. Consequently, he became transcendently senior to me because, besides that, you very much favor Mukunda. Thus, he is superior in all good qualities." So here we see it's another example of what we just talked about, Narada Muni went through. Right? When one devotee is glorified, their natural humility, refutes that glorification and just points it off to somewhere else in some other way, directs that praise to somebody else. Because sometimes praise, especially for a sadhaka, could be like poison to our false ego. And when you praised for anything, then you start thinking, "Oh, well, I am the doer. I did do a good job. I did. And because this is our biggest problem, the living entities, because we're all so self-centered in the material world, from Brahma all the way down to all the living entities, until you're off the transcendental platform. Being off the transcendental platform means you're not affected by the three modes of material nature. That's what you transcend those three modes. So praise can hinder it, especially if you let it go to your head. There's that saying, you let it go to your head. Pride cometh before fall. So you see how devotees immediately try to not accept that praise. Everyone came up with arguments, even Brahma, the topmost Narada Muni was glorifying him. Well, you got to be the most favored recipient of Lord Krishna's mercy. So he immediately starts talking about all the things he did. Look what I did. I gave Hiranyakashipu all these powers, And then the Lord told me not to do that anymore, but then I went around and gave it to Ravana, I didn't even listen to him. So in this way, I stole the cows, and the cow herd friends, so. Okay, so continue reading. We're at 142, right? Oh, no, 141. The Lord said, "For your sake only, I have brought 2 books from South India. The books are being kept with Sarup Damodar, and you can get them copied." Hearing this, Vasudeva became very glad. Indeed, each and every Vaishnava copied the 2 books. By and by, the 2 books, the Brahma Samhita and Sri Krishna Karnamrita, were broadcast all over India. And we actually, Brahma Samhita is just the 14th chapter of that book. It's very large. We just got the 14th chapter of that. And Krishna Karnamrita, 15th chapter. Oh, I'm glad we got some sadhus in the room. 5th chapter, I'm sorry. Krishna Karnamrita was written by Bilabanga Thakur. It's kind of interesting because he talks about how he eventually got this spruti. We talked about spruti recently. Spruti is a vision, realization of the Lord, seeing the Lord. What's funny is, well, it's not funny, but it's the story. We won't go all the way into the story, but how he became a devotee. He was attached to a prostitute. He left that association. She told him, what are you wasting your time here? And you should be surrendered to Krishna. He goes, and then on his pilgrimage to Vrindavan, he stopped at one particular house. There's a Brahmin, had a very attractive wife, and he was lusting after his wife. And then he asked for a hat pin, and he blinded himself. Now, he's blind, and so later he writes this book, Krishna Karnamrita. Of course, he had a secretary or someone helping him. But the thing is, in this book, it talks about it, how he had a vision, how he saw Krishna. But he was blinded. And this is also in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Sanatana Goswami explains how this happens, this Shruti happens. So, now, Krishna Karnamrita, he kind of breaks, it's not a very big book, it's a really small book. But he talks about how you go through a clearing stage, and then there's stages, three stages of one goes through before they actually see Krishna. Of course, there's a whole lot of devotional service that goes, purification, that goes in those categories. But Sanatana Goswami, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, explains that this vision we see, and he used the example of Dhruva, who goes to the forest, goes to Vrindavan, and he's meditating, even though he's a little boy, and eventually Vishnu appears. And he says, he's not actually showing up, it's in his side is where he sees, this vision comes internally. It appears that the Lord is standing right in front of you, but it's an internal vision. Sanatana Goswami break this detail out. So he might be seeing the Lord, but if somebody else could be walking by, won't see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not really standing there in the sense that he's available for everybody when you have this spruti. This is a personal, very intimate thing that happens with the devotees. It takes some intense desire, and some sadhaka practice for this to happen. But it happens. Krishna is within the heart, and he can manifest himself to the sincere devotee at any time. Okay, so we're at 144. Anything else? I might have misspoke something else. No. Right? Apurva? Yeah? Well, it's just a vision. It's like most Sanskrit works, it has few meanings, but primarily it's used in association with one has a vision of the Lord. Sometimes you come in contact with the Lord, through ones like Rupa Goswami, and when they're in Vrindavan, they was, maybe Radharani would come and bring some sweet rice or something. Remember, where's that place in Vrindavan? Pastime is between Nandagram and where Radharani lives. There's this little nice grove. Tirukavanda? No? Does it begin with a T? Where the sweet rice, where she brought Rupa Goswami some sweet rice. Every time they go to Vrindavan, they have these parkrams. They all go to this place. Tirukavanda. Okay. Well, I got one right. So, there's these types of things, but it's a spruti is a vision that one gets in their meditation. Because eventually it happens. Narada Muni, you'd mentioned Narada Muni in your class, that he got very short one. And then the Lord said, you're not going to be able to see me anymore. So then mood of separation was stuck in immediately. He had to long for him. Of course, it wasn't Narada Muni at the time. He was a boy. He later became Narada Muni. That was his, he got in that position because of a curse. He was a Gandharva. He got cursed. He became born in that family, which was a blessing. Often curses wind up as blessings. In this case, it was also a blessing. He said the first thing he had to deal with, Narada Muni, in this discussion, in this same chapters, was fear, especially as a little boy. When he left, his mother was gone, he was out on his own. The very first thing he had to deal with was fear. And when you get to the point that Krishna's taking care of the realization, your spiritual life gets to a certain level, that you're going to be taken care of. You look at everything else in this, birds are being fed, everybody has some kind of allotment. And so he was, at one point, became, as most sadhus, when they conquer fear, then it accelerates their Krishna consciousness or their meditation, because they know at that point the surrender has come to a certain level, because you know that Krishna is going to protect me, no matter what the condition might be. So it was an important point he wanted to bring out, that we all do it with it to a certain degree at different levels for different reasons. But fear is something we also, until we have 100% complete faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's one of the anarthas, a little something we have to overcome and deal with, Okay, so one verse. The Lord addressed Srivas and his brothers with great love and affection, saying, I am obliged that I am purchased by you four brothers. Srinivas then replied to the Lord, why are you speaking in a contradictory way? Rather, we four brothers have been purchased by your mercy. It was kind of funny. This started out about who is the recipient of mercy, how difficult it is. And so he's breaking it down, Krishnadas Kaviraj, all these devotees, associates, how each one of them has received the mercy of the Lord Chaitanya. Okay, good. All right, thank you very much. Sorry for any misquotes. Jai. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you. Spurty, not spruty. Spur.
We were trying to tell you that, but you couldn't hear.
Oh, I can't hear.
No Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvanda Maravinda Nalaya Taksham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Asa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Vipan Vikayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam.
Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Mutale Shimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Dhamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Vacha Devi Sesha Shunyavani Vasyachagare Zatarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Radha Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Ajay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Goloka, Goloka, Tragade. Jaya Radha, Goloka, Goloka, Tragade. Jaya Radha, hey, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Radhe, Radhe. Shri Radhe, Jai.
Shreya Chandrika Vitaranam. Switch days. Ananda Purna. Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktira Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vasava Pankaja Stita Duli Sajra Shimvachintaya Nayanam Gadadashu Daraya Varanam Gad Gadadridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishyavapadamritam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmata Karotuva Yatatata Bhavindato Lampato Mat Prananatastusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of a conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction of humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself in a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son Raj Nanda Krishna,